During my university years, I worked as a babysitter to earn some extra cash. My regular job was looking after a 7-year-old girl for a family who often attended evening social events. The girl was well behaved and mostly kept to herself, playing with her toys or watching cartoons. On this particular evening, which was my 8th time babysitting for this family, everything seemed normal at first. I arrived just as the parents were leaving for a dinner party, with instructions to put their daughter to bed by 8:30 p.m. We spent the early part of the evening watching her favourite shows and having dinner. Shortly after, she went to the bathroom. When she came back, she mentioned hearing odd noises from the attic. I immediately muted the TV and listened intently. Sure enough, there was a faint but distinct sound of movement coming from above. Trying to ease her fears, I suggested it might just be a squirrel or some small animal that had found its way in. I told her to stay put while I checked it out. As I approached the attic door, the noises ceased. I had never been up there before, as it was just a storage space, and I felt a wave of apprehension wash over me. Turning on the attic light, I cautiously climbed the stairs. The attic was spacious, filled with old furniture and boxes. I did a quick sweep, but found nothing unusual, so I returned downstairs, reassuring the girl that everything was fine. We soon forgot about the incident, and I got her ready for bed at the appointed time. After tucking her in, I went back downstairs to relax and catch up on some messages. About half an hour later, the unsettling noises from the attic returned, louder and more pronounced. My heart raced as I heard the girl call out to me from her room. I instructed her to stay put and quietly made my way to the attic door again. With my phone in hand, ready to dial 911, I slowly opened the door. The noises seemed much closer now. As I switched on the light, I was met with a horrifying sight: a disheveled, half-dressed man rummaging through a box near the stairs. In a panic, I slammed the door shut, rushed to the girl's room, grabbed her, and hurried out of the house, immediately calling the police. We waited across the street, watching the house anxiously. I also called the parents to inform them of the situation. When the police arrived, they searched the house and found signs that someone had been living in the attic for some time, with makeshift bedding and food wrappers hidden among the boxes. However, they found no one. The parents were grateful for my quick action and discussed the incident with the police. After everything settled and the house was secured, I headed home, still shaken by the experience. In the following days, I remained on edge, constantly looking over my shoulder. The parents kept me updated, but the intruder was never found. It was a chilling thought that he might still be out there, perhaps hiding in someone else's home. The experience was so traumatic that I eventually decided to stop babysitting altogether. The mystery of the attic and the intruder who eluded capture haunted me for a long time. In the serene backdrop of rural Oregon, surrounded by dense forests and rolling mountains, I found myself in a situation that would haunt me for years. My best friend had asked me to babysit her 8-year-old daughter, Emily, while she was away on a business trip. Their home, though beautiful and secluded, was quite isolated, with the nearest neighbours miles away. On the first day, after a pleasant lunch with my friend, she departed, leaving Emily and me alone. The afternoon passed peacefully with games and chatter about school. As evening approached, we decided to order pizza and watch a movie, embracing the cozy atmosphere of the house. However, our tranquility was disrupted when Emily pointed to the front door, asking about a mysterious figure. I hesitated, feeling a surge of anxiety. Approaching the door, I was met with the sight of a tall, gaunt man standing on the porch. His appearance was unsettling, and his behavior inexplicably odd. He peered into the house and quickly left after a brief exchange. His presence felt out of place in such a remote location. Feeling uneasy, I made sure to lock all the doors and tried to reassure Emily that everything was fine. We watched the movie, but my mind was elsewhere, alert to every sound. Later that night, after putting Emily to bed, I was jolted awake by strange noises outside the house. The sound of crunching leaves and subtle movements was unmistakable. I nervously checked the back porch, but saw nothing. The silence of the forest seemed to amplify my fears, and I decided to head to bed, attributing the noises to my imagination. The next morning, Emily's innocent question about my supposed nocturnal wanderings sent chills down my spine. She had heard someone pacing around the house for an extended period. My protective instincts kicked in, and I decided to investigate the exterior of the house. The sight of scratches on the walls near the windows and the doors confirmed my worst fears. Later, as I saw the same man walking down the road, a sense of dread engulfed me. My friend's recognition of him from a previous unsettling encounter only heightened my anxiety. Determined to keep Emily safe, we spent the day away from the house, only returning in the evening. I vigilantly checked all the locks, but as darkness fell, our sense of security shattered. The sound of tapping and scratching against the walls and windows terrified us. Without hesitation, I grabbed Emily, and we fled to the safety of a nearby hotel, where I contacted the police. The officers took our statements, and after a restless night at the hotel, we returned to the house with my friend. The relief of her return was overshadowed by the lingering fear of the unexplained events. A month later, the man was apprehended after several reports of attempted break-ins in the area. His motives remained a mystery, his actions seemingly aimless and disturbing. The incident left me with an unsettling feeling, pondering the intentions of a stranger who lurked in the shadows, his presence a sinister reminder of the vulnerability that comes with isolation. When I was 14, my mother often worked late on Fridays, leaving me with a babysitter. The one she frequently hired was a 21-year-old woman named Anna, the daughter of one of her colleagues. Anna was an enigmatic figure. She was quiet and reserved, displaying a peculiar demeanor that I found unsettling. She would transform into a more sociable and engaging person around my mother, which always struck me as odd. Despite my protests, my mother insisted that I needed supervision. One particular Friday night, Anna arrived late, as was typical. After my mother left for work, I busied myself with video games, trying to ignore Anna's presence. She usually kept to herself, but that night I noticed her behavior was even more unusual. She spent a lot of time on her phone in the kitchen, whispering in hushed tones. About 20 minutes later, a car pulled into our driveway. Anna promptly went to the door and after a brief pause, stepped outside, leaving me alone. Peering through the blinds, I saw a man hand her a large bag before driving off quickly. Anna returned, dismissing my inquiries with a vague explanation about retrieving her forgotten wallet from a friend. As the evening wore on, Anna's behavior grew increasingly erratic. She made multiple phone calls, her tone fluctuating between hushed whispers and raised voices. The same car returned, and I witnessed a heated exchange between Anna and the driver. Anna retrieved the large bag, handed it back to the man, and he sped away. Her frustration was palpable when she returned. She retreated to the kitchen, barely interacting with me until she abruptly instructed me to go to bed at around 10 p.m. I lay in bed, restless and curious about the night's events. To my surprise, I heard the front door open and close shortly after, well before my mother's usual return time. When my mother came home, I recounted the night's strange occurrences. She was visibly concerned and tried to contact Anna the next day, but to no avail. When she finally spoke to Anna's mother, the explanation given was that Anna had felt ill, a story we both found dubious. It's been years since that mysterious night, but the unanswered questions still linger in my mind. What was in the bag? Why the secrecy and the hasty departure? The mystery of Anna's actions that night remains unsolved, a curious and unsettling memory from my adolescence.